June 1940. The heart of France has fallen silent. Along the coast, the ports are gripped by an eerie stillness. Soldiers, disarmed and defeated, await an uncertain fate. Their weapons lie abandoned, a testament to a battle lost. Paris is occupied, the government in disarray, and the German war machine stands triumphant on the shores of the Channel. Yet, one colossal force remains untouched. The French Navy, the Marine Nationale, one of the most powerful fleets in the world, lies at anchor its steel hulls, reflecting the twilight of a dying republic. Its crews are ready, its guns are loaded, but its orders are unclear. In the southern ports of Toulon and Marseille, under the cloak of night, a tense drama unfolds. The war is not over. It has merely paused, catching its breath. On the decks of battleships and cruisers, sailors whisper in the dark. Will they surrender their ships to the enemy? Or will they make a final, desperate dash for freedom? The air is thick with the scent of salt and the low hum of machinery on standby. Tonight, history holds its breath. A choice is about to be made that will echo through the decades. What if, at this exact moment, France refused to surrender? To understand the magnitude of this decision, we must first revisit the grim reality of what truly happened. The Heman Blitzkrieg, a storm of steel and fire, had smashed through the Ardennes, a region the French High Command considered impassable. This single, devastating blow shattered the Allied front line. Communication lines were severed, command structures crumbled, and panic spread like a contagion from the battlefield to the halls of power in Paris. As German tanks rolled into the capital, the French government fled, fractured and demoralized. The fear of total annihilation, of the complete occupation of their homeland, was palpable. A deeper terror also gripped the minds of Allied leaders: the fate of the French Navy. If this formidable fleet fell into German hands, it could tip the balance of the war at sea, threatening Britain's very survival. In this climate of chaos and despair, the French National Assembly made a fateful choice. It granted full dictatorial powers to Marshal Pétain, a hero of the First World War. His mission was to seek an armistice. The Vichy regime was born, and with it, an era of collaboration began. France, despite still possessing a vast overseas empire and a powerful, intact navy, laid down its arms. The fight was over. But in the realm of what could have been, history pivots on a single night. A different choice is made. In the naval command centers, a crucial order is delayed. A message of surrender is read not as a command, but as a final, desperate plea for the fleet to save itself. Admiral François Darlan, commander of the French Navy, makes a fateful call. His loyalty is not to a defeated government on the mainland, but to the enduring spirit of France. The order is given: sail. Under the cover of darkness, the anchors are raised. The low rumble of engines grows into a powerful roar as the fleet comes to life. One by one, the great warships slip their moorings and steam out of the harbors, their wakes cutting through the black waters of the Mediterranean. They are not sailing to surrender, nor to be scuttled. They are redeploying. Their destination: the fortified ports of French North Africa, Algiers, Oran, Casablanca. These territories remain secure, their garrisons loyal, their resources vast. As dawn breaks, the world awakens to a stunning new reality. The French fleet is gone, vanished from beneath the very nose of the Axis powers. For the British Royal Navy, this is a moment of profound relief. The planned, tragic confrontation at Mers el Kabir, the British attack on their own ally to neutralize the French fleet, never happens. Instead of conflict, there is cooperation. The French and British navies, now united, form an unbreakable maritime shield across the Mediterranean and the Atlantic. In Bordeaux, the government of Paul Reynaud, which had resigned in our timeline, finds new resolve. Bolstered by the Navy's defiance, they reject the armistice. A government in exile is not formed by a lone general in London, but is transplanted, whole, to Algiers. From North Africa, they declare their continued resistance. France has lost a battle, a catastrophic battle on its own soil, but it has not lost the war. From Algiers, the French Republic fights on. The vast resources of the French Empire manpower from Senegal, resources from Indochina, strategic bases across the globe are now fully committed to the Allied cause. The war in the Mediterranean is transformed overnight. Instead of a tenuous British hold, the Allies now dominate the sea. Italian ambitions to create a new Roman Empire are crushed before they can begin. The North African campaign, which in our history would be a bloody years-long struggle, takes a completely different turn. With hundreds of thousands of French colonial troops already in place, and the French Navy securing the sea lanes, any Axis attempt to invade North Africa becomes a logistical nightmare. Ramos Afra Corps, if it is sent at all, faces a two-front war from the moment it lands, caught between the British in Egypt and a massive, well-supplied French army in Algeria and Tunisia. The entire southern flank of Axis Europe is now exposed and vulnerable. Malta, the besieged island fortress, is icily resupplied, its role as an unsinkable aircraft carrier magnified. This new reality forces a strategic recalculation in Berlin. Hitler cannot simply focus on the invasion of Britain or the planned assault on the Soviet Union. He now faces a powerful, active enemy on his southern border, a second front years before it happened in our timeline. Resources, divisions, and vital air power must be diverted to contain this new threat. The Battle of Britain may still be fought, but with the Luftwaffe stretched thin, its intensity is lessened, giving the Royal Air Force a critical advantage. More importantly, the psychological impact is immense. The myth of German invincibility is shattered not in the snows of Russia, but in the sands of North Africa. The world sees that France, though wounded, has not been broken. Resistance movements within occupied Europe are emboldened, seeing a legitimate and powerful French government still in the fight. Across the Atlantic, the United States, witnessing this continued defiance, accelerates its support for the Allies. The Lend-Lease Act might come sooner, its resources flowing not just to Britain, but to the resurgent French forces in Africa. The war's timeline is fundamentally altered. With North Africa secure, an Allied invasion of Sicily and Italy could be launched as early as 1942. Soft underbelly of Europe is pierced far sooner, forcing Germany to divert even more troops from the Eastern Front. When Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union, does launch, it is against a backdrop of a multi-front war. The German army that marches toward Moscow is weaker, its air support less absolute, its supply lines more precarious. The turning point of the war on the Eastern Front, the Battle of Stalingrad, might still occur, but the Soviets face a German war machine already strained to its breaking point. The very nature of the French resistance changes. It is no longer a scattered collection of underground cells answering to a distant general. It is the clandestine arm of a recognized, fighting government, receiving supplies, intelligence, and special forces directly from French Africa. The liberation of France itself would look different. Instead of an Anglo-American-led invasion in Normandy, Operation Dragoon, the landing in the south of France, becomes the main event. French armies hardened by years of fighting in Africa and Italy spearhead the liberation of their own homeland, marching up the Rhine Valley to meet their allies. Imagine the scene. General de Lattre de Tassigny's First French Army, not as a junior partner, but as the primary force liberating French cities, the tricolor flag raised over Paris, not by a division attached to an American army group, but by the vanguard of the French Republic reborn from Africa. France's role at the end of the war is transformed. It would not be a nation granted a seat at the victor's table out of courtesy, but a principal architect of the victory itself, on par with Britain, the United States, and the Soviet Union. The post-war world would be France, having never truly surrendered its sovereignty, would emerge with its empire largely intact and its national pride restored. The difficult and often violent process of decolonization might have followed a different, perhaps less confrontational path, guided by a stronger, more confident French state. This single act of defiance in June 1940 would not just have changed the course of the war, it would have redrawn the map of the 20th century. History is not just a record of what happened. It is a tapestry of moments where everything could have been different. This was one of those moments. In the chaos of June 1940, with Paris fallen and the government in disarray, a single decision changes everything. Instead of surrender, the order rings out. Fight on. This is not the end for France, but the beginning of a new, desperate chapter of the war. Imagine the scene. French naval commanders, expecting orders to scuttle their ships or hand them over, receive a stunning directive: regroup and sail south. The powerful French fleet, one of the largest in the world, doesn't scatter. It consolidates. Warships that once patrolled the Atlantic and Channel now form massive convoys, their guns pointed skyward, escorting troop transports packed with soldiers who thought their war was over. Their destination: French North Africa, Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia. These territories offer what mainland France has lost: strategic depth, secure ports, and most importantly, time. As the ships slice through the Mediterranean, a sense of purpose returns. For soldiers who had been retreating for weeks, who had witnessed the collapse of their armies, this is a profound psychological shift. They are not prisoners or a defeated rabble. They are a field army redeploying. The French command, so paralyzed and reactive since the German invasion in May, finally seizes the initiative. In the vast expanse of North Africa, shattered divisions can be rebuilt, re-equipped, and retrained, far from the reach of the German army. The war has not ended. It has simply moved. With the French fleet intact and operating from North African bases, the entire strategic balance of the Mediterranean is open. What was once a potential Axis lake is now a hotly contested battleground. British and French naval staffs, adversaries for centuries, now work in tandem. Royal Navy ships from Gibraltar and Alexandria coordinate with French squadrons from Algiers and Oran. Their shared mission is simple: cut the Axis lifeline to North Africa. Italy's ambitions in the region now face a severe threat. Mussolini has dreams of a new Roman Empire, but those dreams are fueled by convoys sailing from Naples and Taranto to Tripoli. Suddenly, those sea lanes are no longer safe. Every tanker carrying fuel, every freighter loaded with ammunition, and every transport ship with reinforcements must run a gauntlet of Allied submarines, destroyers, and air patrols. The Anglo-French naval cooperation turns the central Mediterranean into a killing ground for Axis shipping. Every ship that goes to the bottom weakens Italian forces in Libya weeks or months down the road. The Desert War, in this reality, effectively begins at sea. Long before the first tank battle is fought in the sand, the campaign is being shaped by naval attrition. As Italian forces prepare to advance into Egypt, their stockpiles of fuel, ammunition, and even water are already shrinking. Morale, which depends on the promise of supply, begins to fray. Germany cannot ignore this turn of events. The Italian failure to secure North Africa and threaten the Suez Canal forces Hitler's hand. He dispatches one of his most brilliant commanders, Erwin Rommel, and the newly formed Afrika Korps to salvage the situation. Rommel arrives in Libya expecting to face a demoralized and divided enemy, just as he had in France. He anticipates exploiting the historic rivalry between the British and the French. Instead, he finds a coordinated and determined opposition. Rommel's early tactical brilliance remains. His bold armored thrusts catch Allied commandos by surprise, and his units achieve stunning local breakthroughs. But these tactical victories fail to translate into strategic success. Why? Because Rommel's greatest enemy isn't the soldier in the trench opposite him, but the vast, empty distance behind him. His supply lines are stretched to the breaking point, running across a sea controlled by his enemies, and under skies contested by their air forces. Fuel shortages become a more effective brake on his momentum than enemy anti-tank guns. His panzers may win a battle, only to run out of gasoline 100 kilometers later, becoming sitting ducks for count. The desert, which Rommel hoped to master, quickly teaches him a brutal lesson in logistics. He can win battles, but he's starting to lose the war of supply. The French forces fighting alongside the British are no longer the same army that broke in 1940. The trauma of defeat has been a harsh but effective teacher. French commanders, forged in the fires of this new reality, begin to shed the rigid, top-down doctrines that failed them so catastrophically. Authority is decentralized. Junior officers are empowered to make decisions on the spot, adapting to the fluid nature of desert warfare. They learn to trade space for time, conducting fighting retreats that bleed Rommel's forces for every kilometer of sand. Artillery, a traditional French strength, becomes central to their new doctrine. Instead of being tied to infantry formations, French guns are massed at critical choke points and along desert corridors, turning them into deadly fire traps for advancing German columns. Above, Revitalized French and British air power works relentlessly to isolate the battlefield. They don't just attack the front lines. They go deep, hitting supply dumps, truck convoys, and makeshift airfields. The Axis forces find themselves in a nightmarish cycle. They advance by day, expending precious fuel and ammunition, only to be hammered from the air and forced to pull back at night. They are burning through irreplaceable resources in a war of attrition they cannot win. This isn't the blitzkrieg that conquered Europe. It's a slow grinding self-ojan that favors the side with the more secure supply line. As the campaign drags on, the Anglo-French High Command makes a critical strategic shift. Instead of getting drawn into a war of maneuver chasing Rommel's panzers across the endless desert, they focus their efforts on the one thing the Axis cannot operate without. Ports. The primary targets become Tripoli and Benghazi. Massive air raids, naval bombardments, and commando operations are launched with a singular goal: to destroy their operational capacity. Docks are cratered, cranes are toppled, and harbor entrances are blocked with sunken ships. The effect is devastating. With the primary ports either destroyed or under constant blockade, the Axis supply system collapses. It no longer matters how brilliantly Rommel maneuvers his tanks if they have no fuel. It doesn't matter how bravely his soldiers fight if they have no ammunition or water. Tactical brilliance can no longer compensate for catastrophic logistical failure. The desert, which was supposed to be the springboard for Axis victory in Africa, has become a strategic trap. Rommel's army is now stranded, a powerful but starving beast tethered to a withered supply line, facing an enemy that grows stronger by the day. The consequences of this alternate North African campaign ripple across the globe. Berlin now faces an agonizing choice. Does Germany divert more troops, more aircraft, and more precious resources to a failing war in Africa? Or does it cut its losses and focus on its long-term strategic objective? The planned invasion of the Soviet Union, every division and every Luftwaffe squadron sent south to prop up the African front, is one less that can be deployed on the Eastern Front. The war in the desert is no longer a sideshow. It is actively draining strength from the heart of the German war machine, potentially delaying or weakening Operation Barbarossa. Meanwhile, France's role in the world has been transformed. It is not a defeated, occupied state, but a government in exile with a powerful military and vast colonial resources, fighting as a key partner in the Allied coalition. The tricolor flies proudly over armies in the field, fleets at sea, and air squadrons in the sky. This reality galvanizes resistance within occupied France and sends a powerful message to the world. France is still in the war. The Mediterranean is no longer a secondary theater but a center of gravity for the entire conflict. The war that Germany thought it had won in 6 weeks in 1940 has, in a very real sense, just begun again. And this time it will be fought on terms a lot less favorable to the Axis. The guns have fallen silent, but the war is far from decided. Across the North African desert, smoke drifts over the cooling wrecks of tanks and guns. Commanders on both sides pause, not in victory, but in calculation. Germany now confronts a France that never surrendered, a vengeful ghost risen from the ashes of defeat. Britain, once isolated, gains an ally it never expected to regain. The Mediterranean, previously a sideshow, becomes the new center of gravity in this global conflict. Neutral powers watch from the sidelines, carefully measuring risk and opportunity. Every decision from this point forward carries consequences far beyond the immediate battlefield. This new path could lead to a swifter victory, or to a longer, darker, and more devastating war. History chose one road. Our story ends here, at the fork. With this outcome, what future do you see? Thanks for watching.